In 1987, American rock band REM released a song titled, "It's the End of the World as We Know It." This catchy tune with stream of consciousness lyrics referenced earthquakes, hurricanes, fires, and other apocalyptic signs. Every 90s high school and college-age kid remembers well rewinding cassette tapes over and over again, trying to memorize Michael Stipe's fast-moving and free-flowing lyrics. And as one of those kids, I couldn't help but recall this song as we enter this new liturgical year. This Advent season, it's the end of the world as we know it. The Israelites were an end-of-times people. Themes of end-of-times, the latter days, are woven through our Hebrew and Christian scriptures and color our gospel text today. Early Jewish Jesus followers believed they were living in the latter days. They lived in heightened anticipation of the parousia, the return of Jesus Christ. After the crisis of the Jerusalem temple's destruction in 70 AD, the result of an attempted yet failed violent insurrection against the Roman Empire, the Israelites' own national identity was shaken. Their lives were disrupted in the aftermath of that tragedy, and there was no return to what was before. We hear in Jesus' words today Matthew speaking to this community. Writing some 15, 20 years later, the Matthean community perceived this violence, the attendant poverty, and other natural disasters as portents of the parousia. God's unveiling was imminent. However, they could not predict when or where. Latter-day times are filled with uncertainty. In his scholarship, theologian Reed Carlson asked this question: what does the belief that one is living in the latter days do to a person, a community, a society? And he invites us to consider how our scriptures speak to that question. Matthew today gives us a hint at the ways in which his community was struggling by offering two analogies. The first analogy to the Noahic floods. Raj Nadella writes that here Matthew is highlighting his people's preoccupation with their own concerns and a sense of normalcy in a manner that frankly made them oblivious to and distant from the ways of the divine. They were eating and drinking to excess, drowning their anxiety in earthly concerns and distractions. With the second analogy of the thief in the night, the author describes how his people are narrowly focused on trying to predict the future through signs and symbols to determine Christ's precise time of return, revealing their fearfulness in their present time of uncertainty. The Matthean community resisted the uncertainty of their present time. They were struggling with what they could not control. Well, and this is a very human pain that afflicts us all. Carlson writes that both survey and anecdotal data suggest that more and more people in the United States and throughout the Western world believe that we are living in the proverbial, or sometimes actual, last days. And this is especially true for younger generations. He suggests that dominant narratives surrounding climate change, political turmoil, growing economic disparities, the decline of traditional institutions like the church, and global pandemics are contributing factors. And whether these events portend the end of the world, or merely we are drawn to believe that they do, Carlson suggests that perception usually counts more than reality, and that perception can create feelings of anxiety and fear. Amid the uncertainty of the COVID crisis 2 years ago, we humans acted out in all kinds of destructive Some drown their anxiety in food and wine. Others continue to move about their lives with abandon, willfully ignoring the crisis. Still others succumb to the temptation to fearfully crawl under their bed covers and just wake up when it was all over. We all grappled with healthy means of dealing with this uncertainty, the uncertainty of it all. And we longed for the return to the normal that we had known, even if that normal was something we viewed through rose-colored glasses. And while the immediate crisis of the pandemic has abated, we still live in a world that is marred by random violence, difficult to predict and sometimes unforeseeable natural disasters, and the capriciousness of being mortal. Perhaps we also vacillate still between abandoning ourselves in our own interests and pleasures or shielding ourselves in blind ignorance to the challenges of our present time. However, in doing so, like the Matthean community that came before us, we will miss the opportunity the advent of Christ brings. In March of 2020, after the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, REM lead singer Michael Stipes posted a message on social media recalling his hit song. He sang lines from the chorus, "It's the end of the world as we know it," before pausing to say, "And as we know it is the most important part." Our Matthean Jesus graciously meets his community and us where we are at, and points to our dangerous attitudes towards living in latter days, uncertainty, before offering us a profound message of hope and a healthy adaptive strategy for living in times such as these. This Advent season, Matthew reminds us that yes, it is the end of the world as we know it. And there's no going back, because this world of suffering receives its salvation through Jesus Christ. Jesus is our new normal. Prepare. During latter days uncertainty in the midst of the present world's unpredictability, our profound hope is in a God that reveals God's self in precisely just such a place and time. God's promises unveil themselves in the unexpectedness of a king born in a lowly manger who will surprisingly secure our salvation through his amazing grace on the cross. In the assurance and certainty of this, Jesus becomes our new normal, the stabilizing focus of our daily lives, and we prepare for Christ's coming. Our preparations are, as Daniel Smith Christopher suggests, the living in the expectation that the teachings and example of Jesus are the new norm. We prepare for the coming of divine love and the full restoration of our world by living more deeply into our discipleship call to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and advocate for peace on earth, rather than obsessing about the future, which we cannot control, or abandoning our Christian call in earthly distractions, trusting in God's promises. We prepare. We prepare for the coming of Christ in our faithful living, precisely because, as Smith Christopher writes, we are in the advent of Christ, the advent of profound hope for our uncertain world. An extraordinary hope that emerges in the ordinariness of a life in discipleship. A hope that has and will wipe away anxious tears and removes all fear. And so we prepare, embracing the uncertainty of this world with confidence in the unexpected. For that is where divine love enters and meets us with grace. At Lutheran Church of God's Love, we prepare by welcoming the stranger, supporting our Hope Ministries partnership with the Foundation of Bucks County and Penndale. We prepare by welcoming the children, participating in children's ministries such as the new council-approved probation of our nursery, Sunday school programs, and more. We prepare by welcoming the sick, the grieving, and all who seek care and healing by financially supporting the congregation's annual fund that will expand our small group ministry, our community outreach, and our witness to divine love of Jesus Christ, a divine love that restores all of God's children to wholeness. Our profound hope is that it is the end of the world as we know it. The blessed way of Jesus Christ is our new normal, one that will bring peace and joy here on earth. Thanks be